Follow along, Catholic Pilgrims, as we follow French doctor of the Church, St. Francis de Sales, through his book, Introduction to the Devout Life. Tune in as we read through this practical guide for living out the Catholic faith well. Welcome back, Catholic Pilgrims, to our last reading on friendship. Today I'm going to say some hard things to hear, but I think they must be said. One of my biggest pet peeves is when people say to me online, "Yes, but Jesus ate with sinners." I get this in response to people trying to defend abortion, the LGBT ideology, and the like. They are trying to make the point that since Jesus ate with sinners, we should ipso facto eat with them too. They take it a step further because what they really want to say is that we should eat with them and tolerate the choices and lifestyles of those engaging in those particular activities. It irritates me because they neglect to remember that Jesus didn't eat with sinners because he wanted to encourage them in their sin or pat them on the back and tell them that he was an ally. No, he called them to repentance and transformation. He calls us all to holiness. And so, yes, we may need to eat with sinners, which means literally everyone that we will eat with. But if we are a good friend, we should never, ever be okay or tolerate watching them perish in their sin. St. Francis is going to give us just a few more thoughts today about friendship, so let's turn to chapter 22 of the third part. Chapter 22. Further counsels concerning friendship. Friendship requires an abundant communion or interchange, without which it can neither begin nor continue. But together with the communion of friendship, other communications are wont to glide from heart to heart by mutual expression and infusion of affections, inclinations, and impressions. This happens chiefly when we esteem highly him whom we love, for then we open our whole heart to the object of our friendship and readily receive his inclinations and impressions, whether they be good or bad. Assuredly, the bees which gather Heraclean honey seek honey only, but they insensibly suck the poison of the aconite when they feed upon it. In this respect, therefore, give good heed to the teaching we have received from our blessed Lord and from holy men of old. Let us be wise money changers, that is to say, let us beware that we do not receive bad money with that which is good, nor spurious gold instead of pure gold. Discriminate between what is worthless and precious, for scarcely anyone is without his faults. Why should you be infected with your friend's faults and failings along with his love? Unquestionably, you should love him despite his imperfections, but neither love nor follow them. For friendship requires the communication of what is good, not of what is bad. As those who take gravel from the tagus, after they have separated the gold which is in it from the sand, take it away, leaving the sand behind, so in friendship men should reject the sand of imperfections and not allow it to sift into their hearts. St. Gregory Nazianzen mentions that some of those who loved and admired St. Basil went so far as to imitate even his bodily imperfections, his slow, absent manner, the shape of his beard, and his peculiar gait. And we often see that husbands and wives, parents and children, or friends who love each other very dearly, either out of complacence or imitation, acquire sundry little habits and peculiarities in their mutual intercourse. But it should not be so, for everyone has plenty of individual failings without assuming those of another, and friendship, far from requiring us to put on one another's faults, would rather oblige us to strive mutually to overcome all such failings. We must doubtless bear patiently with our friend's faults, but not encourage him in them, still less adopt them ourselves. In this I allude only to imperfections. As to sins, we must neither encourage nor tolerate them in our friend. It is a poor and unworthy friendship which can see a friend perishing and not succor him, see him dying of cancer and not have courage to make the sharp incision which would save him. True and living friendship cannot exist amid sin. The salamander is said to extinguish the fire in which it lies, and sin destroys that friendship where it effects an entrance. If the sin be but accidental, it will be put to flight by friendly correction. But if it be rooted and permanent, then friendship will perish, for it can exist only where virtue is. Still less should friendship ever lead us into sin. Our friend becomes an enemy if he would cause us to sin, and deserves to be cast off if he strive to cause his friend to perish. And that is sure to be a false friendship, which is entertained toward a vicious man or is nourished in sin. If we love a vicious person, our friendship too will be evil. For since it cannot be founded on true virtue, it must rest in some false good or mere sensual attraction. The connection between men of business concerning temporal matters is but a shadow of real friendship, since its object is not personal attachment, but the love of gain. We may take two precepts as the pillars of our Christian life. First, that of the wise man. He that feareth God shall likewise have good friendship. Secondly, that of St. James. The friendship of the world is the enemy of God. I love being a woman. I love the fact that women bring life into this world. I love that we are nurturers and caretakers, generally. I love that we take spaces and make them places where people want to be. I love that we fight for the vulnerable because we know what it is like to be, for the most part, the weaker sex. Something about women, though, that drives me crazy is that too many women, in an effort to make everyone feel included, will tolerate sinful behavior. Not only will they tolerate it, but because they don't want to make anyone feel bad about themselves, they wind up encouraging sin and advocating for it. Not all women, obviously. I am not one of these women. But women in general can view friendship as a relationship where nobody feels bad, nobody judges. Dr. Jordan Peterson said once that a lot of women view people in one of two ways: infants that need protecting and those trying to hurt the infant. Like I said, women want to protect the vulnerable. But when we see everyone as an infant that needs a mama bear or a quote-unquote ride and die friend, then we wind up condoning and coddling bad behavior. There are men like this too, of course, but I'm speaking from experience as a woman and what I've noticed from my sex. St. Francis says, quote, "True and living friendship cannot exist amid sin," unquote. He also says, quote, "It is a poor and unworthy friendship which can see a friend perishing and not succor him," unquote. If you are encouraging people in sin, and I know a lot of people don't want to believe that abortion or the LGBT lifestyles are sinful, the hard truth is that they are. They just are. The Bible is clear on these issues, and it just wouldn't fly to stand in front of Christ and try to defend killing the unborn and supporting homosexual behaviors. St. Francis says, quote, "Still less should friendship ever lead us into sin. Our friend becomes an enemy if he would cause us to sin, and deserves to be cast off if he strive to cause his friends to perish," unquote. If someone is leading you to sin, they are not a friend. If you are supporting or encouraging a friend in sin, you are not being a good friend. True friendship does not mean that we are completely inclusive. Inclusivity is not a virtue. Sometimes it is right and just to exclude someone if they are doing something that is sinful and immoral. I know that sounds harsh, but it's true. True friendship doesn't mean that we save our friends from every uncomfortable feeling. Sometimes a friend needs to hear that their addiction is hurting them and others Sometimes they need to hear that their participation in sexual sin is putting their soul in jeopardy. If I really love you as a friend, I don't want you to do anything that puts your soul in jeopardy. And so, yes, sometimes we have to judge behavior so that we can warn people. And of course, because I will inevitably get someone to say that correction has to be delivered in charity. Yes, correction has to be delivered in charity. So don't be a jerk about it. St. Francis says, quote, "We must doubtless bear patiently with our friend's faults, but not encourage him in them," unquote. And then he goes on to say, quote, "In this I allude only to imperfections. As to sins, we must neither encourage nor tolerate them in our friend," unquote. So that concludes our section on Friendship Catholic Pilgrims. Next time we will hear about external mortifications. And until then, live the faith boldly and travel well.